Hey, my name's David Owen.
And this is Marian Cowigowen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple talk about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And this time I was made to watch An American in Paris.
Yes, I did that to him. I made him sit down and watch a musical. Mm-hmm. And he survived, folks. It's okay. It's okay. I think earlier I named one of the movies that we watched the least Dave movie possible. I think this beats it. So this is, if you're not familiar, it is the 1951 Gene Kelly and Leslie Caron ballet musical. Some descriptions call it a musical comedy, heavy on the George Gershwin music and songs. Had you heard of it before, Dave? Did you know anything about it?
Yeah. I mean, I'd heard of it. I didn't know much about it.
Yeah. You'd never seen it or anything like that? No. Okay. Well, I don't know why this became so beloved for me. I think there was probably a period where it was on public television a lot. And since that was pretty much all that was allowed in my house, not entirely, but if it was on public TV, it got the stamp of approval just automatically, and anything else had to be proven that it was good to watch. And so anything on public television got watched a lot. So I'd seen it several times as a kid, and then at some point got it on VHS and watched it umpteen times, and have a great fondness for Gene Kelly. He's just this slim Irish-looking man who can dance and sing and seems very gentlemanly on screen. And that's my type.
All right.
I'm sorry to report that my husband cannot sing or dance and is not even really all that Irish looking. So yeah, but
yep.
You have your dream life on celluloid.
You've chosen poorly.
Well, also, Gene Kelly apparently may be kind of a jerk in real life. I don't know.
Sure.
Apparently, he was a real taskmaster. I think not on this film, but on Singin' in the Rain, Debbie Reynolds said that working with him and training with him was worse than childbirth because he's that much of a perfectionist. Yeah. Which is how you get to be a good dancer, is you do it again and again and again and again and again.
But, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, not pleasant to work with. Well, here's an overview of the plot as written on IMDb. Jerry Mulligan, a struggling American painter in Paris, is, quote, discovered by an influential heiress with an interest in more than Jerry's art. Jerry, in turn, falls for Lise, a young French girl already engaged to a cabaret singer. Jerry jokes, sings, and dances with his best friend, an acerbic would-be concert pianist, while romantic complications abound. Does that sound about right?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. The Jerry is played by Gene Kelly. The heiress is Nina Falk. I don't know. I recognize her now. She played a hussy in the 10 Commandments, which makes me giggle. I didn't know that until I saw it this last Easter, and I was like, "Oh, I know her." I've never seen her in anything else. Leslie Caron is the young French girl. The cabaret singer is George something. He's French, and he was, I think, he actually was a cabaret singer in France, and they were trying to make him a big deal in the U.S., and I don't think it worked because I've never heard of him in any other context than this movie.
Yeah.
So, and the would-be best friend is Oscar Levant. The character's name is Adam, and I gotta say, at this viewing, he's the best part of the movie. Frankly, he's my favorite.
Yeah. He was. Yeah, there's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
shtick with him.
Lots of asides, and he has a big personality, and he looks like he likes to drink a lot and is funny when he's drunk. And I would like to be friends with him, but he's fictional, so I can't. They actually this was originally a movie. Most of the big Hollywood musicals were stage plays first. This was not. It was made directly for the screen. But it was made into a musical in the last, 10, 15 years. And I've not seen it. I know it's available somewhere. to stream. I just haven't seen it. But apparently in that version, Adam falls for Leslie too, or not Leslie, for Lise too. And I think, okay, no, this character that I have gotten to know in the 51 version, he's not interested in
women at all.
No,
They're just a hassle.
Or men, frankly. I think he just wants to drink and play piano, and that's it. He wants as little hassle as as possible.
Yes.
So I would love to see that version, but right off the bat, I'm like, no, I don't buy this at all.
Yeah. I mean, there's no need for it.
No. And I frankly think this version of Adam is perfect. He's comic relief in what would otherwise be kind of treacly, honestly. Like, there's a lot of soppy love and flowers, and none of these relationships are going to last for the long haul. So
yeah, I mean, he's what you need to even things out for sure. Yeah.
Yes, he's 11 in the lump, as they say. So, so let's get into this. So, Jerry, Gene Kelly, was a GI and just decided to stay in France when the war was over. And so this has been 5 or 6 years. And he's a painter, and he's apparently not very successful. So I wonder why he's still at this. 5 or 6 years is enough time for you to go, oh, okay, that was a lark. I better go home and do something. But
and, I mean, you get the feeling that he's close to that at a point in the movie.
Yes.
Like but also they also go out of their way to show that like it's a saturated market. So maybe it's not that he's not good. There's a point where he's going to set up his paintings, and he keeps walking by other people who are painting, other painters who are selling their paintings, until he finally gets to what seems like his faraway corner where he sets his stuff up.
And he knows all the guys that he's walking by, and there's probably lots of people did the same thing. So and he is out. So he barely has 2 pennies to rub together on most days, and he's out trying to sell his work just on the street, which is such a interesting concept to me. Like, people are just walking to the park and they pass somebody and they buy a painting.
Yeah, man.
I'm okay, sure.
I don't know. It's Paris.
So, and Milo sees him, and I think she initially does actually like his work, but then she realizes he's Gene Kelly and he's quite attractive, and she likes his work and other things too. And she decides she wants to sponsor him and get him a proper studio and let him focus on painting, and he can have a show and he'll be a success. And, I'm investing in you. You can pay me back later, blah, blah, blah. There's this suggestion that she is like throwing money at him in order to get his company. And there's an indication that she's done this with other artists in the past. It's hard to really tell. Is she really actually interested in him or not? I think he's just a plaything at the moment. But she pitches a fit when they're out at dinner one night, and Jerry sees a pretty girl at the next table, and Jerry's oblivious to Milo's interest in him. How he doesn't notice this, I don't know.
I wouldn't say he's oblivious. He's taking her at her word, because there is a point where he's like, he gives her back her money, and he's basically like, I'm not here to be your paid companion. Like, I'm not here. And she's like, no, seriously, I just interested in you for art.
Okay.
That's what I read it as more. He's just, he believes her when she says that.
Okay. Well.
And I think up to that point, the audience is also given no reason, because that same scene where he sees what's her name for the first time is also the scene where one of Milo's friends says to her, oh, it's another one. I'll give him 3 months, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the first time where we're given any reason to doubt her.
Yeah. Okay. True. Yeah. So, but he sees Lise across the room and instantly smitten with her, and sort of talks his way into dancing with her and getting her number. And she says, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. He does not listen to her. This is where, when I first saw this, when I was, 10, 15, whatever, I was like, oh, he's so dreamy. And now I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
This was kind of like my main takeaway from this movie. These two in particular are real shitbags.
Yeah, they really.
Like, I am not like,
You're not rejoicing.
I'm not rooting for them for the entire movie.
No.
And I'm not happy when they get together at the end.
No.
It's not like it, to me, any enjoyment that I got out of this movie was spoiled by, it started right there in that scene where she flat out says no and he just keeps pulling her back and I'm just going, oh, this is like, I get what they're going for, but there's a better way to do that. And maybe it's just she's French and maybe she's a dancer first and an actress second. She's not selling it. Like, there's a way to coyly reject like a male's advances in a way that's asking him to just be more persistent. Like, that's been done in film successfully. You know, the woman who's playing hard to get and sending overt messages that she's playing hard to get. She is just very literally playing no thank you. And right up until the moment where a switch is thrown in the perfume shop and she just goes, she's just on board. Yeah. At that point, like, it was so, I mean, it really sapped any chance I had to enjoy this movie was sapped by the dynamic of how that relationship starts and how it unfolds throughout the rest of the movie.
Well, yeah. So first of all, yeah, I think she is a dancer first and an actress second. And there's a lot, like, I don't find her a particularly compelling actress. Like, when she smiles, she's beautiful. She glows a little bit, but she's not, a lot of times she looks kind of sullen. And I don't really understand the appeal of her as an actress based on this movie. She's done many other things and, you know, probably better in other things, but but she is saying flat out no.
Very clear language, forcefully.
Yeah. I don't think that a woman should have to work very hard to craft a way of saying no, because it should be just no means no.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But are you saying that, like, if the movie wanted to show us that she was saying no, but yes. She didn't do that very well.
Yeah, she didn't do that. If that's what I was supposed to take away, because that's 1,000% not what I took away. Okay. That she was just saying, you know, like you go, no, you know, like, or, you know, or you make up silly excuses and there's a back and forth between, you know, between the two of them. She is playing it straight as no, I am not interested in this. And he is playing it not even like, he's not even playing it, because up to this point we've been shown that this character is like, he plays around with the kids in the neighborhood. He's funny. He's got a lot of friends. He's likable. And in this moment, his switch is thrown for him, and he's none of those things. He's not being charming. He's just being overtly aggressive. Yeah.
Well, I would say he's charmingly aggressive, or he's trying to be charmingly aggressive. But the problem is that still is aggressive, and she has said no, thank you, and he's still doing it. Yeah. So this is why this is problematic for me now. Yeah. There are a lot of things that I enjoy in it, but I have to overlook the main romance. So he goes home smitten, and she thinks that she has made herself clear. The next morning, he has somehow figured out where she works, and he calls her at work, and she, over the phone, says...
No, he tricked her into giving her phone number. Remember, he's got her in this social situation.
Oh, that's right. And the phone number she gave was her work number.
Was fake. Yeah. And a friend at her table corrected him. So again, she gave him a fake number to get away from him. Like, I'm saying, like, I'm not furious at this movie, but it is such this is somebody should have done a talk on this. Like, there's got to be a scholarly paper somewhere on consent and this movie.
You kind of wonder why there isn't a warning in front of this to say this shows predatory behavior that is not okay.
Because I mean, it's like everything that happens. You know, he ambushes her in a social situation. He overhears her name in conversation and uses that to pretend that he knows her to force her onto the dance floor. And then when she finally refuses back, he tricks her into giving her. He tries to force her through social pressure to give her phone number. She gives him a fake number, to which one of her oblivious friends corrects her. Yeah. And that is her work number. And then that's how he finds out where she works and all that. Okay. But like, I'm sorry, like, I'm being like specific about this.
You're
because
thoroughly
it's
grossed
so
out.
Because it's so gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, like I said, sapped any enjoyment I could get out of the rest of this movie.
That was like 30 minutes in.
No, like from that point on, I was just like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Like you lost me right there.
He's a dirtbag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he calls her, and she, again, is very clear, like, what is it? She says, last night you were an annoyance, but today you're a nuisance. Don't call me again. And he shows up.
Yeah.
And charms one of her customers into buying perfume. And Lise says, it's pity you don't have as much charm as you have persistence. Like, she's still not into this. And then he pretends to drink perfume. And
he's like, oh, but I do. Ha, ha, ha. And she's like, okay, I'm smitten.
Yeah. Okay, that's, And the problem is that she has some sort of understanding with Henri, the cabaret singer, whom Jerry has met earlier. It's a little hard I don't know how old he is. She's 19. He looks much older, in his 30s at least.
Sure. And
he took care of her during the war because her parents were in the resistance and they presumably were disappeared. And he took care of her, and then it eventually turned into love. And you can't really tell. I think the story that we're given is she loves him in a fatherly or brotherly way. He loves her as more. She feels beholden to him, obligated to marry him, but she doesn't really love him in that way. And at the end, he releases her, spoiler, to marry Jerry. But that's a conversation that you have before the night you go off to get married. So,
sure.
Anyway, she does not tell Jerry about this, and Jerry doesn't tell Lise about Milo, because at this point, there's nothing to tell, he thinks. And they go on having this affair, kind of
weird relationship where they just meet for like an hour or two at a time over the course of
a couple months, I think. Yeah. Meanwhile, Henri is his show is doing very well. He has an American backer that wants to take him on tour there, and he says to Lise, "Oh, we'll get married, and you can come with me." And you can't tell, like, is this just like a business proposition that we're saying that, or like has the understanding been there all the time, or what?
Right? Because the very first time we meet him, he is talking about her.
Yeah,
and this would have been months prior to this, this conversation, and he is already talking marriage at that point. So
does she know that though? Their relationship is a little muddy, but whatever. But it's just like, oh, of course we'll get married. Okay, and she's like, oh, great. Yeah, great. And he does not pick up on this at all.
But there's just to be clear, because again, this is one of the things that I think makes both of these main characters scumbags. It's not unclear to her his intent, because when asked for advice on, effectively how to woo a woman, he says, tell her that genuinely that you love her. So clearly he's done that in his relationship. So there's no circumstance in which she doesn't understand the dynamic of their relationship.
Right.
And while she may be doing it out of a sense of obligation and a sense of limited options, she knows the parameters of their relationship.
Right. And if it is an obligation, then you either suck it up and you stick to your obligation and you don't have this side piece, or you say, hey, listen, we got to talk.
Yeah.
You fish or cut bait. You can't really have it.
Yeah. My dislike of her comes fully from how she conducts herself in the relationship, in both relationships. My dislike of him comes from how he attempts to start this relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I still adore Gene Kelly, but Jerry Mulligan is kind of a dirtbag.
But everything else about that, like you could just fix that one stumble, and I wouldn't mind seeing it do modern updates, or does a modern version of this fix that stumble.
Yeah,
like you just a small rewrite on how they meet would have, for me, changed the entire scope of the rest of this. And for the female character, whatever, like that's fixable or not, I don't know.
I think part of that is her acting.
I think it is
level.
But yeah, just the way that initial, because he's so out of character from what we've been shown during that first interaction. All you got to do is just bring that in line with the rest with everything else we've been shown about him, which is that he is good-natured and kind and all of these other things prior to their first meeting.
Yeah. That's a fair point. So it's not the whole thing that's bad. It's just that thing that poisons the whole story. Yeah. Meanwhile, Adam eventually figures out that these two men are in love with the same women, which leads to, honestly, my favorite scene.
Oh, yeah.
When they're both talking about, I love this woman, and Adam is interrupting, trying to get them to change the subject. Did I ever tell you about the time I did a command performance for Hitler? And they're like, whatever, we want to,
Yeah, and he's got some of his best shtick in here where he's like, he keeps asking for brandies, and then they'll bring like 2 out and he'll drink both of them, and then he's lighting a cigarette, then he drinks a cup of coffee, but he's got the cigarette in his mouth still, and then he pulls the cup back and the cigarette's gone.
And he's having a hard time lighting the cigarette, and he keeps spilling on himself, and it's
broken, it's like bent at one point. Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's a very silent movie style comedy that would have been pretty commonplace at the time, probably. Yeah. Especially for a character that's so explicitly like comic relief. Yeah. But yeah, it's done really well.
And I don't know his background, actually. I think he was more of a musician than an actor.
I feel like he would have to be, because there's no way plays the piano like in his big scene where he daydreams,
and his hands are visible, and there's no way you can fake.
There's no faking
that.
Like, he had to be an accomplished pianist.
So he, I think, does a better transition to acting than other characters in the movie.
And he could be his roots are in musical theater or something, in which case he would be better at that.
Possibly, yeah. So, but yeah, every time I see this, I'm like, I need to find some other things that he was in, because he's fantastic. Yeah. But he does, however, have one of my least favorite lines. He's talking about Milo, who is American. We can probably attribute some of her assertiveness to that. Yeah. And she's got a lot of money from her father, and she just zooms right in and is like, oh, Jerry, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to do this and this and this and this and that. And Jerry at one point is telling Adam about this, and Adam says something along the lines of, see, that's the problem. Women act like men, and they still want to be treated like women or something. And that's when you remember, oh, that's right, this is the 50s, right? Yes. We don't really like women being assertive or even aggressive, and so that's
because outside of that line, Milo is a good character. Like, she's a woman who doesn't need a man to help her out, and she's existing obviously in a man's world and doing well with it, and isn't like a wilting lily or anything.
I think, though, it's hard to tell. I think she initially did like Jerry's art. Yeah. But then she wants to have her cake and eat it too, and when you learn that she's done this before, you're like, and like, so the evening that they're out and Jerry hits on Lise, and Milo is observing this whole thing and not pleased with it at all. And she kind of has a breakdown on him in the car and says, don't ever behave like that again, blah, 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 blah. She says, if you want to pick up stray women, which I like, that's your affair, but blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, no. You got to decide what's going on here. You can't get mad at him if he didn't understand what you wanted. And, so there's a little bit of, I think Milo is a little bit stuck.
Well, it felt to me like that's, like you see this in movies all the time. Like these two characters are friends or business associates until one of them gets into a prospective relationship, then the other one realizes how they really feel. Sure. And it read to me kind of like a moment like that, like the moment where she realized, like, oh, I actually didn't like it when he was trying to pick up on this other girl. Maybe I am interested in him.
Sure. Though at this point, they've known each other for less than 24 hours. Yeah. So yeah.
So it's possible that her intention all the time was to woo him with her money and fund his art, and then
who knows? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Just tell me it doesn't matter. Focus on the terrible relationship at the center. Of the movie.
It's worth talking about.
Yeah. So come on. So okay, yeah. So the ballet at the end. This, by the way, George Gershwin had died before this movie was put together. I think his brother was still alive and probably spearheaded some of this. But all this, as far as I know, all the songs and the musical pieces in there were written by Gershwin. So this really is a story that's built around Gershwin pieces. The ballet in the last 20 minutes is to an American in Paris, his piece, which was written probably 20 years before. And it's in the storyline, Lise and Henri have agreed to get married, and she's clearly not happy about it, but they leave, and Jerry is sad that they're gone, and he has the ballet is sort of like his vision, whatever, it's his thoughts in his head, I don't know, while he's being glum. And then at the end, presumably, Henri has figured it out, or and they've had to talk, and he comes back and basically gives her to Jerry, and they're happily ever after. That was also, like if you're releasing your fiance to somebody else, don't kiss her before you do that. That was weird, but
yeah, that was weird.
Anyway, so the ballet is, there's a lot going on, and I feel like I want an annotated version because there are a lot of themes that I think are about French life and French culture that I want explained some more. There's explicit some references to Toulouse-Lautrec, and if I were more of an art aficionado, I would probably recognize other artists who are referenced in there. And then there's this thing where the guys in military uniforms they put on then these dapper, barbershop quartet outfits, and there's lots of French policemen strutting around, and I'm like, okay, there's something going on here about authority, and they talk about Hitler, and this is very clear, not long after the war, and I'm like, I want to know what events, what references to then contemporary events am I missing, because I'm sure there's a whole level that is just over my head. But that ballet is bonkers.
Oh yeah. It's like
it cost like $500,000 to produce.
Yeah, which is like probably tens of millions in today's money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it's got great style. It's got great theming, and it uses all this abstract stuff. Like painted backgrounds, and so there's a hand drawing that he does that's part of the theming, and lots of bright costumes and stuff. It's like I feel like this is what loops on the screen as Baz Luhrmann is writing anything for this, anything for a movie. Like, this is just going to go. I'm just going to have this over and over.
That's right.
And this is going to...
Moulin Rouge was like this on steroids.
Or, even Romeo and Juliet, like all of these movies, like they feel like this, the color saturation and the bright colors and the everything being exaggerated and all these, very, very, very much. I mean, I imagine it was inspirational to a lot of people because it's not an uncommon looking thing when you think about what comes after this, just like, hey, we're going to have a dream sequence or whatever, and it's going to be, everyone's going to be dancing their thoughts and feelings, and all these crazy things. And it's really well done. There's some decent like match shots, like fade, like where it goes into a silhouette and then the lights come back up and you're somewhere else. Yeah,
and there's costume changes and everything.
And there's a couple of those that are really good, and there's a couple that aren't. And I'm just sitting there like thinking, man, like 10 minutes in After Effects.
Yeah.
And this could be a seamless transition.
What they couldn't do
like
if they
mind blowing. Right.
redid this now. Yeah.
Made today like this, it would be just like it goes to silhouette and comes back and you never know.
Yeah.
That it was it would be almost like hidden cuts in an unbroken one take scene, but it's actually full of hidden cuts. Somebody walks by the camera and that's a cut and all that. It would be like that. This thing would appear like one solid 17, 18 minute take. But it would be full of like really well done hidden cuts and stuff. And I mean, it looks good, and it is definitely that sort of stereotypical musical, I'm dancing my emotions kind of thing. So.
I was thinking of, we talk about cuts. I was thinking about the ballet at the end of Center Stage.
Yeah.
And how that is not this.
Right.
Like,
well, and how that is
similarities, but not the same at all.
Well, and the funny thing being, that is a stage performance that is designed to be filmed on film cameras, on cameras. This was a movie performance that was designed to be filmed like a stage performance. So it's like they're similar, but they're also exact opposites of one another, because nothing happened in this that you could have watched this the day it was performed, and outside of the transitions and the costume changes, which would have been something, everything would have been 100% believable. All the motion, all the shots. Yeah. Unlike the stuff in Center Stage where someone sinks below the frame and then appears in the distance. And like we've been over that, but
it still makes me laugh. Though.
It's so funny to think like, and I think that is so common with a lot of stuff where somebody early on does something the right way, and oftentimes they do it the way they do it because of the limitations that exist. And then over time, as technology changes or as filming techniques change, people emulate the thing, but they emulate it using the new styles and new technologies, and it doesn't work as well.
Take shortcuts, and you're like, this is why we don't do that shortcut. Yeah.
Exactly. Because, anybody thinking about it for more than a second is like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the ballet ends. And I noticed this time some motifs throughout it. Lise is wearing a red rose carnation, some kind of flower, in most of her scenes in the ballet, and it opens and closes with him finding that flower on the floor. And it's a little bit Wizard of Oz-y. It starts in this black and white drawing, and then he sees the flower, and then boom, colors in the background, and then everything's super colorful, and then he's sort of trying to find her throughout all these scenes, and then at the end he's back in this. It's like a hand drawn of a gate or something into a park, and the flower is on the floor, and he goes to pick it up, and then all the color is gone, and it's just no color in my life now that back to the gone. Real world. Oh no! And then
she's
Henri delivers.
I also love that this movie just doesn't give any epilogue for Milo.
No,
just like whatever.
She finds another. I would love it if she and Adam kind of guys, and like, which they're not going to, because he's insulted her. He's, he doesn't like this whole thing to begin with. Yeah. He thinks she's sketchy, and he's basically told her so. But I would love to see the two of them together, because I think they'd work.
But I also would love it if that just made her more interested. I like him because he's not here for my bullshit. Yeah. And
I don't have to trick him.
Yeah, I love the line that Jerry gives of he's a concert pianist, and she's like, I never heard him, because he's never had a concert. Yeah, and that also seems like a challenge for her. Yeah, in the same way that Jerry being unknown was a challenge.
Yeah, well, because earlier in the film they've exposited that Adam keeps winning scholarships to study, which he's kind of sort of doing, but also not, and he's something like, I don't want to have to actually work. That's a bad habit. I don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried that once, and I had to quit, so I almost
didn't
got
want
in
to
the
be
habit of
slave to the habit. Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah. But they do almost seem like a good pair together, because neither one of them would take the crap off the other, and it would be a 100% working relationship with no attraction in between, and maybe this would finally be the one where she actually discovers. Yeah.
Or if there were attraction, it would be hate sex, and there'd be no messy emotions. But I was also thinking, I want to see a movie about these three guys, no romance, because when they're early in the movie, they're doing this sort of impromptu song and dance routine in the cafe, and it's hysterical. Yeah, mostly because of Adam, I have to say. Sure, but they're just funny. I would like to see them in sort of a 3 men and a baby scenario, where they all have to work together for something that's been funny.
Common goal.
Yeah. So speaking of other relationships, how long do Jerry and Lise last?
Oh, I'm not long. I mean, they're both cheaters. Yeah. Effectively.
It kind of reminds me of at the end of the Graduate, Dustin Hoffman has crashed Elaine's wedding and is basically like, don't marry him, I love you. And she runs away. And then they get on the bus, and they're sitting in the back of the bus next to each other. And then they're all panting, oh, we escaped, we made it, great. And then their expressions change, oh shit, what now? Oh yeah, one of the greatest endings in movie history. Yeah, yeah, where the real you as the audience see the realization of okay, it's the dog that caught the ambulance, or the police car or whatever. What do I do with it now? Wait, this was all very exciting and dramatic, but is that what I actually wanted? Now it's exactly the mundane sort of thing that we were both trying to escape in our lives. Yeah. Yes. So I imagine that sort of a moment for Jerry and Lise. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I have to see you more than an hour a day. Oh. Yeah. Oh, totally. Okay. Right. Yeah. And then if he's truly into his art, then he is going to be obsessive over it, and she is going to feel left out, and yada yada, back and forth. And it's not going to last at all. It's not. No, it's not. And at least one person who had genuine love for one of them is, his life is ruined in the short term. Yeah. And is Milo going to get her
money back.
Or get anything out of her investment.
Right.
And is he, how is this going to,
Yeah, because he agrees to pay her back when she decides to get him a studio. And he's like, I can't afford this. And she's like, oh, money. I got money.
Yeah.
Pay me back.
Yeah. So should anybody watch this today? Because we pretty thoroughly panned a lot of it.
I mean,
there are lovely parts to it, but
yeah, I don't know. Like, it's the last scene is worth watching even by itself, just like off of YouTube or something. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think you could watch this without, if you aren't woke like me, maybe you won't notice how shitty his approach to her is and just how absolutely unforgivable her infidelity is as a character trait. But otherwise, yeah, like if you have watched a lot of romance in the last 20 years, like it's maybe, if you're a fan of classic romance movies, you've overlooked a lot of really crappy starts to relationships because you had to buy the rest of it. And if you can overlook it, sure. I mean, the dancing is great. It's all like, it's very entertaining. The musical numbers are fun. The three male guys, the three Jerry and Henry and Adam all together are great. The interaction, the scene with the kids and the song is great. I mean, like, there's plenty of good stuff peppered throughout the movie. It is just really, for me, was kind of a deal breaker. How poorly that stuff was handled, but otherwise, yeah, it's worth watching.
Yeah, well, it got, I believe, a great response at the time, and I think it won Best Picture.
It did, yeah.
In 52.
Yeah, I think a lot of people consider this to be like the weakest Best Picture.
Well, yeah, I was reading, and a lot of critics now are like,
which I would say that's what I knew about this movie before watching it, was that it kind of had the distinction of being the people's least favorite, because
that may be why there's so many good parts, but there's a lot of weak points in the acting, the story, the characters.
I think it depends on what do you use to determine Best Picture. Like, I don't know what else came out in 51, but is this the Best Picture? I mean, because there have been some musicals that have scored big at the Oscars recently, and most of them are not remembered that fondly. I feel like, and other movies that are like, well, was this really the best movie? So yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. Like.
Well, my suspicion is then, as now, the Oscars are a little bit political.
Oh, sure.
There's someone saying, well, I can't vote for this because I voted for that, and I've got to even it out, or
Oh yeah.
Or people are just wowed by the technical brilliance. Oh yeah, and overlook other stuff, and it's
for sure. I mean, it really does depend. And like with so many things, it depends on what you go into. What do you want to represent your, your chosen profession? What's the best book ever written? What was the best book written this year? That you get 30 different answers from 30 different people. Yeah. Because they all value something different in it. I mean, should sales factor in? Should just pure entertainment value factor in? Should acting? Should directing? Should, I sometimes agree with the Best Picture. I sometimes disagree with the Best Picture, but ultimately, a long time ago, I learned to stop caring what the Academy picked as their Best Picture, because what does it really matter?
Yeah. Well, specifically, as far as the Oscars, I think the downside there is that for all the other awards, you can only vote for nominees in your discipline.
Yeah.
If you're an actor, you can only vote for actors. If you're a screenwriter, you can only vote for screenwriters. Everybody can vote for Best Picture.
Sure.
So you've got somebody who does makeup voting on who the best actors were,
right.
Did the actors make this, whatever. And it's.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So it's a little bit of, it's almost a People's Choice Award. It's not.
Yeah, a little bit.
Anyway, but this won an Oscar that year for whatever that's worth. So, I think there's a lot of, it's notable. It may not necessarily be good by today's standards. There's a lot of problems in it.
Sure. And I don't know. I've never in the 5 minutes while we were prepping for this, and I looked up the most popular articles about this movie. A lot of people said that La La Land is basically a ripoff of this.
I've heard that. I don't know
if La La Land was good or not, but maybe just watch that. If you if you want a better version of this, maybe just watch that. No, I don't know. And I would be interested to see. I did also read in that brief 5 minutes that for some reason, like the 2011 version of this had a whole lot of swastikas in it that the writer chose to play up. Because as far as anybody knows in this movie, that what war? Because there's no signs of any sort of fallout of the war. There's no talk about it. You've got at least a couple of different people who mention being soldiers or having been engaged or married to a soldier. And there's no like the world is just back to happy-go-lucky, singing and dancing in the streets.
Well, so it's 51. So that's 6 years after. I don't know the arc of France's recovery. I didn't think it wasn't instantaneous.
Sure.
But, and I mean, this is, in movie life, people still sing and dance even when they're poor.
That's true. Or when they're in the middle of World War II, they sing and dance,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But, yeah, the 2011 version?
I think I read it was 2011. I don't know.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would be intrigued to see a modern take on this when we have more of a perspective on the war and how it affects things. And maybe we're not trying to avoid talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, coming out in 51, nobody was probably in the mood to talk about it. So
certainly not in a bright and shiny musical.
And that, right. That's in a certain way, that's cinema doing its job.
Yeah.
Is like and a lot of people make that argument, right? With speaking of best pictures, when you have some best picture that's depressing and dramatic, people are like, that's not good. That's not entertaining. Like a lot of people go to the movies, and I'm sure in the wake of World War II, you go to the movies to be entertained, not to be reminded of what just happened because, hey, guess what? I just lived through that and I don't need you. I didn't need 9/11 movies in 2003.
Well, certainly you didn't need 9/11 movies if you lived in New York City, and you don't need World War II movies if you lived in France.
Yes.
I think there were several very dramatic, very unhappy World War II movies made in the U.S. for U.S. audiences. There was one where the character had lost both of his hands, and he had prosthetics, and he had been a soldier, and he was. I don't want to see that at all. I can't imagine.
I mean, and that's the other thing. That's the other. What is film is whatever it needs to be. It is either, this mirror that you hold up to reflect the stark reality of the world you live in, or this, this cloak that you put over reality and make it technicolor and happy. Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's just as much of an argument, but then it's what's your intended audience? Is your intended audience people who want to be entertained, or is your intended audience people who need to be educated on what happened?
Yeah.
So
you probably can't do both.
Right. It's probably very difficult to do both.
Yeah. So anyway, so that is An American in Paris. I would say notable, important, not necessarily good.
It's entertaining. Like, I mean,
there are problems.
I mean, yeah.
Through a 2021 lens, there are problems.
And if you're coming into this movie expecting a fun musical, you will probably overlook the crappiness of Jerry and that initial approach. It probably won't resonate if you are, on the other hand, being forced by your wife to watch it for a podcast. You may nitpick some individual things out of it. So if you're in that unique situation, heads up. Otherwise, you'll probably enjoy it.
Have you watched enough rom-coms that you are blind to crappy behavior?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I think it was, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, I was watching this, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, what? He's terrible.
What is happening?
The veil was lifted from my eyes.
Yeah.
But it's still Gene Kelly. He's still dreamy.
You could, there's literally like a minute and 45 seconds that you can cut out of the middle of this, or the early part of this movie, and everything else is wonderful. Yeah. Like it's watch it just for the music and stuff alone.
Yeah.
And the dancing and all that stuff, like the tap dancing and all that. And like it's all great. It's all entertaining. It's lighthearted, except for the minute and a half when it's not.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So, when they come out with an updated version, we'll talk about that too.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do. So
Apparently.
in the meantime, have you decided what we are talking about next time?
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck.
Okay. Is this revenge?
Get ready. No. There's a song in this. It's at the very end.
Okay.
Yeah. But get ready. It's just gonna be duck boobies and a duck in a sport coat.
Okay. All right. Well, you can listen to that next time. And if you would like to be sure to catch that, you can. Our episodes are every other Wednesday. So in 2 weeks, come check us out. We are on most of your major podcast providers, specifically Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can subscribe, so you'll get it for sure in your queue. You can also rate and review us. We would love that too. We'd love to hear what you like.
Sure.
Do you feel that Jerry is also a dirtbag? Is Lee's better, worse? Would you put Milo and Adam together? I don't know. Tell us what you think. You can drop us a line at either Twitter or Gmail. Our handle is the same at both. It's YSMY Podcast, YSMY for You Show Me Yours. So let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of the podcast in general. And then check back for our next episode 2 weeks from today. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, that's all we got on An American in Paris. We'll see you next time for Howard the Duck. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io. And scene.
That felt very short.